are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Delaware Boateng on Twitter. Here to the latest Auburn athletics news. And as you can tell, the lighting in here is very bad. Let me try to adjust myself to where the white monitor next to me can not make me look so red in the face. There we go. So, and that did not do a thing. So, today's episode, we're going to be highlighting the wide receiver room, continuing a series where we're going to be talking about the different position groups. And I think wide receiver is one of the biggest talking points for Auburn football going into the 2025 season, because if you see these rankings of position groups anywhere, Auburn is near the top of the list. At the highest, they are number 2, but I mean, still number 1 in the SEC, but you'll see them in the top 5 at the bare minimum. And that's just the overall talent that was brought in through the transfer portal and just, keeping the Freeze 4 together, which Malcolm Simmons to be determined at a later date for where he stands on this roster. And just going through the roster, I'm going to skip over Malcolm Simmons just because I don't believe he'll be on the team come, the start of the year. But I think the highlight to talk about here is Cam Coleman. Now, Cam Coleman is the most talented receiver on this team, and I think anyone will agree with that fact. I think Eric Singleton brings a lot. Horatio Fields brings a lot. Perry Thompson has a lot of potential whenever he gets utilized correctly, which keyword there, utilized correctly. And, of course, you get to probably see a little bit more of Bryce Kane this year. But Cam Coleman is the pinnacle of what we want to see out of an Auburn receiver. He is tall, he is physical, he is quick, and he is athletic. And Cam Coleman had a little case of the drops throughout the beginning of the year, but collected himself and got better as the year progressed, ending the season off very strong with almost 600 yards receiving and adding 8 touchdowns to his resume. Now, 8 touchdowns also had him near the top of the list in the SEC and tied him with Keandre Lambert-Smith, who, it wouldn't be right for me to talk about the wide receivers this year without talking about the wide receivers last year, because I really think Keandre Lambert-Smith deserves a lot of respect. I think he has earned himself a spot in the all-time Auburn wide receivers list. I think that he is up there at the top of that just for getting as close as he was. And you talk about a one-year rental player. I mean, that is the pinnacle of what you want. You want a guy who can step in and just be as good as he was. And there's even film of him now with the Chargers where he got drafted to, where he is lighting it up, just making absolutely amazing catches. But yeah, I think that Cam Coleman is the best part of this Auburn offense in general. But out of this wide receiver room, I think you have to highlight Cam Coleman first. I think that ultimately he is going to be, I don't want to say the workhorse, but he's going to get the majority of the targets here just because of what he offers. You can't double team this guy. Cam Coleman is an absolute dude. And I think Jackson Arnold, throw out the other guys for just a second. Cam Coleman is the best receiver Jackson Arnold has got a chance to play with in his college career. And I think that he's going to absolutely show that this year. I've already put him in my first team All-SEC. Most other people have done that as well. I think Cam Coleman is the best wide receiver in the SEC. And I might be a little biased saying that, but I think right now I would take Cam Coleman and his potential over Ryan Williams and his potential. I think that Cam Coleman just adds that much more just because of the size and the physicality he has. And I think he's just as fast and just as agile as Ryan Williams is. But going on with the remainder of the wide receiver room, up next is Eric Singleton, currently listed as number 2 wide receiver right behind Cam Coleman, picking up the top wide receiver in the transfer portal out of Georgia Tech. And last year, Eric Singleton was a massive part as to why Georgia Tech was as good as they end up being towards the end of the year, giving Georgia a lot of issues as well. Eric Singleton adds a lot to this Auburn team as well, just being a absolute deep threat. And I think you're going to see him kind of move all around the place during this season. I think you're going to see him play out wide at the slot. You might even see him take some, I don't want to say snaps out of the backfield, but definitely probably going to get a couple of in rounds coming his way. But I think that whenever you watch Eric Singleton play, you're going to see the potential this Auburn offense has whenever it has 2-star wide receivers. I can't remember the last time Auburn really had 2-star receivers like an Eric Singleton and like a Cam Coleman that we saw. I want to say last year. I don't want to say last year because Cam Coleman kind of took a while. I probably want to say like 04 when you had Obamanu and Craig and oh my God, Aroma Shadu. You had a threefer there. But yeah, Eric Singleton last year for Georgia Tech, 754 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. So didn't really get utilized as much in the touchdown game. But, in the past 2 seasons with Georgia Tech, racked up over 90 catches. So Auburn getting an absolute stud in Eric Singleton. Again, a guy who is so shifty and so quick. A guy who's also getting a lot of NFL conversations headed his way. Alongside a couple of other Tigers that we talked about Cedric Falk already. Connor Lew has also been getting that as well, and Xavier Chaplin. So Auburn are going to have a lot more players getting drafted this year if all goes well. But I think Eric Singleton, being on the smaller side, I think you'll probably see him play a little bit more in the slot just to make room for the other guys we're going to talk about. But Eric Singleton just adds so much more to this Auburn offense. So, like last year, you had Malcolm Simmons, but I think Eric Singleton brings a lot more than what Malcolm Simmons brought in terms of just sheer speed and agility. I think Malcolm Simmons would have a lot to grow into if he were to be on the team come the start of the year, but I just don't think that's possible. But I think that Eric Singleton is going to be a massive part of this passing offense as well, because you got to get the ball to your playmakers, and Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman, those are some playmakers right there. And the other guys are going to have to grow into that, minus probably one guy that I'll talk about next. But I think that this potential of this wide receiver room, it speaks for itself. And you're going into the next transfer I want to talk about is Horatio Fields. Now, I would like to see if there is even a chance that this is false or true or whatever. And sorry if I'm trying to change the color of there we go. That fixed that. I'm trying to make sure I was trying to desaturate myself a little bit. Horatio Fields. I don't know if there has been another Auburn podcaster or Auburn personality or just personality in general in the sports world that has hyped up Horatio Fields like I have. Since watching his film, and I know I talked about this in the last episode, watching Horatio Fields' film is fun to watch if you love the wide receiver who does everything correctly. He doesn't drop passes. He knows where the first down marker is. He knows how to get a first down. That is something Auburn missed out on a lot. Over the past few years, it's been an issue with third down conversions. And Horatio Fields, a lot of his film is, of course, those 5-yard outs, those slant routes, those curls. Those go get the first down routes are what Horatio Fields is really good at. And I would love to see what his catch percentage was within a 5-yard radius, because I feel like Wake Forest really utilized him a lot in those 3rd and 5 situations, and he successfully did a lot of those. So I'm really happy to see what Horatio Fields built. He had an amazing catch at the A-Day event and for a touchdown. And sadly, you didn't get to see Jackson Arnold throw the ball to him, but it was Deuce Knight regardless. But made an absolutely immaculate catch, and just the end zone and good defense surrounding him as well. Horatio Fields probably has the best hands of any receiver on Auburn's roster right now, just because he has those for sure hands. And I would love to look at his college football 26 ratings, just kind of make sure that he has the highest catch percentage out of anybody on the team, because he definitely has earned that. So up next on the list, kind of going to the remainder of those freeze 4, Perry Thompson, I think is going to get a lot more touches than he did last year, and he deserves it. You go back to A-Day, Perry Thompson had himself a day, just showing out all over the place, making awesome catches, and just perfect defense was not enough to stop Perry Thompson from grabbing the ball at A-Day. And I think that will show during the year that Perry Thompson is going to emerge as a top target and give Auburn, 4 deep in terms of guys who can make any catch on the field, guys who can make any play as long as the ball gets to them. And that's going to be like the biggest point here is making sure the ball gets to them. But Perry Thompson, the physicality of Perry Thompson, the athleticism of Perry Thompson is something Auburn fans should be salivating over, because whenever he starts to get utilized correctly, that is where Auburn fans are going to learn Perry Thompson's name. And I feel like Perry Thompson has gotten a lot of disrespect out of the fans. I've seen a lot of people talk about him transferring out after this year because he won't get that much playing time. I think it's a lot of bogus, because that just means you've not been informed of what Perry Thompson can do on the football field. This dude is absolutely legit. And, I talked about it a lot throughout last year, where when it came towards the end of the year, I thought that Auburn should have been utilizing Perry Thompson a lot more than they were. I mean, looking at last year, Perry Thompson only had 5 catches on the year for 126 yards and had 1 touchdown, which is less catches than Robert Lewis had last year, less targets as well. And so I think that it's in Auburn's best interest to utilize Perry Thompson, because he was a 5-star wide receiver brought in with Cam Coleman. That duo, has been hyped up so much. That's the AJ Brown and DK Metcalf combo that we've, as a collective of a fan base, have talked ourselves into believing this is what Hugh Freeze brought in, was the next coming of this duo. And I fully believe Perry Thompson can emerge. I think he has every opportunity to be a breakout player this year for Auburn. And I'm super excited that A-Day, I forgot to put the quotes around it, A-Day showed off to the public. I wish it was on TV. That way more people would have seen it. Showed off to the public that Perry Thompson means business going into 2025. Now, Bryce Cain is an interesting topic right now, just because 2 catches, 33 yards last year, red-shirted. One of his first touches, I think, on the year last year was a fumble against Alabama A&M. I think Bryce Cain, again, very fast wide receiver. On the smaller side, I want to say I have the roster up here in front of me. Smaller side, 5'10", which, kind of around there's a lot of guys on the wide receiver room that are 5'10". Eric Singleton's also 5'10". But yeah, Bryce Cain, I think you're going to see a little bit more of him. I don't know how much of the sample size you're going to get. I think you get a lot more if, other things happen. But if Bryce Cain gets the ball in his hands, I think you're going to see a lot more of him in the short yardage and kind of see what he can do in the yak game, the yards after catch. But I think Bryce Cain is a really good option for Auburn getting in, getting a guy who can play that slot role. Maybe he has a gadget guy, he has the speed for that. And I'm super excited to see more of Bryce Cain. I think, he's a guy that people really forgot about last year. There was Cam Coleman and Malcolm Simmons all got their chance in the spotlight. Perry Thompson, he was the guy who was not getting an opportunity. And then Bryce Cain kind of sat in the back, got redshirted, and then everyone kind of didn't talk about him as much. But the athleticism and the speed of Bryce Cain is enough to where, if he gets the ball and he gets just a sliver of open space, he'll become a household name alongside the remainder of this wide receiver room. And then after that, I mean, you kind of get some guys around the place that, I don't really see a lot of them probably this year. Eric and Derek Smith, just got the campus, going to be true freshmen. I'd probably assume those two, the twins, would be redshirted. But I'm super stoked to see what they do whenever they get on the field. Derek, I mean, going by Duke Smith. Duke, just a super athletic, quick wide receiver. His twin brother, the more physical, high point the ball receiver at 6'4". So that'd be a fun tandem to watch progress throughout the years. Of course, Cameron King, redshirt freshman. I don't believe you'll see a whole lot more of him. Probably just in emergency situations or, injuries, late in games of blowouts. Probably see a lot of him. Same thing as like a Will Upton. Probably see him more so on punt returns if need be. Hugh Freeze has said he has some of the best hands in the special teams department. So, if Auburn just needs a for sure fair catch, we'll up to there. And then, of course, one of the more interesting options here is Sam Turner. Now, I don't believe Sam Turner will be I'm on the fence about this, actually. I don't know if Sam Turner will get redshirted. I think that he'll play in more than 4 games just because of what he was able to do in the spring. He really turned a lot of heads. So I think Sam Turner is a guy that Auburn can kind of look forward to seeing a lot of throughout this year because of just, him being as quick and as athletic. And, if you're turning heads in spring as a true freshman, you're going to see the field pretty early. I don't see Sam Turner being a starter this year, but I can definitely see him being a guy, 3 plays into the drive. Let's see what Sam Turner can do on this play and then getting him out there. So, yeah, overall, that's the wide receiver room, and I'm super stoked to see them. I thought about doing the tight ends in this group, but I'll save them for another day. But, yeah, super stoked for this wide receiver room. And the discussion that I want to have about this wide receiver, I know I'll kind of only spent 60 minutes, is which one of these guys is the most likely to hit 1,000 yards this year if Auburn is able to finally hit that number. Of course, if you don't recall, that number has not been hit by Auburn receivers since before I was born. I was born in the year 2000. And I think the obvious answer is Cam Coleman. I think that he's going to demand a lot more receptions on the year than 37. That's what he got last year, which is 13 less than Keandre Lambert-Smith, and KLS is almost able to get 1,000 yards. I think Cam Coleman does have that gumption to get to that point. I mean, Cam Coleman has all the measurables and all the tangibles to be an all-time receiver for Auburn, and whether or not that really means a lot is besides the point. I don't think Auburn's really known for having superb wide receiver talent. We've had some guys, we've had some dudes around the place: Darius Slayton, Sammy Coates, again, Abmanu, and just other guys just across the board. But impactful level receivers that are nationally known, I might say Duke Williams was the last time Auburn really had a guy like that. And things kind of went sour with him because, he gets kicked off the team. But yeah, Duke Williams is probably the last guy that really got notoriety at the national level as an Auburn receiver. But I think Cam Coleman has all of the build and all the tangibles and all of the potential to be that next guy in the spotlight. He already kind of is. But I definitely think Cam Coleman could hit that 1,000-yard marker. But I just don't know if I have the courage to really say he'll hit it this year. There's some records that I think Auburn could break this year in terms of other players around the place. I've already said I think Keldrick Falk could hit that single season sack record. But I just don't know if 1,000-yard receivers in the cards with the wide receiver room this loaded. I mean, last year, you had KLS 981. Right after him is Cam Coleman with 600. Simmons had 451. Valdo had 372, which tight ends, again, I don't know if the tight ends get as many receptions as Valdo did over his 2 years. I think Hollis Davidson and Ryan Gee may as they get older and progress. But right now, I just don't know if Preston Howard and Brandon Frazier really have shown enough to get to that level. I think they have potential. Preston Howard, at least, I think he's more the reception guy. Brandon Frazier more the blocking guy. But I could see a difference in sort of along the lines of that, maybe even closer than that. I say Cam Coleman hits like 700 yards this year. I could see Eric Singleton being like 500. Perry Thompson at 300. And then it just kind of shortly goes down. I mean, I could see Horatio Fields. I mean, if I go with like the 5 yards per catch thing that I've been joking about with how good he's been with those short yardage, I mean, he could have like the most receptions on the team and still have like the 5th most yards. So let me know what you think in the comment section below. Do you think Auburn can hit 1,000 yards on the season for a receiver? Do you think a receiver can hit 1,000 yards on the season? If so, who do you think is most likely to hit it? And also, who is your most excited to watch wide receiver in this room? Again, Horatio Fields deserves some more love, if you ask me. That's going to do something on the College Loop podcast. Of course, don't forget to check us out right here on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to check us out on social media as well. That's the College Loop, literally everywhere. And, of course, audio versions of the show available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to check me out on Twitter myself at the Tank. That's also my handle on TikTok, where I've been trying to post a lot more of SEC content, which I've also been posting on Instagram as well at Tank Talks Football. Trying to make some content for YouTube on my Tank Talks Football YouTube channel. But, of course, if you want to follow me personally on Instagram, at Dylan Larck, DYLNLARCK, visual aid right here in the bottom right, bottom left, whichever way you're facing when you're watching the video. But, of course, everybody checks out over there as well. So, that being said, thanks for tuning in to the College Loop podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle.